What preparing my son is one of those things where his path in life is going to be different. It's not going to be the normal path in life. So the thing that we try to do is give him love, keep him covered, and help him progress in his lane of progression. That's where a lot of people go wrong. They compare their kids or they compare other people. You can't do that. You can't do that. You got to keep your kids in their lane and then progress them along in their lane.
Welcome back to another episode of Just My Baby Daddy podcast. It's your boy AJ.
It's the bougie baby daddy Eli. Hey, we keep it simple today.
So it's fitting, right? Today you got on Kappa apparel.
No doubt.
I got on Kappa apparel made by one of our chapter brothers down
doubt.
in Fayetteville, Epsilon Beta. And people say we have a lot of Kappas on this show. Well, fuck it, we do. Okay. You know what I mean? And you know, if you've been in the Fayetteville area for at least the past 15 years, you know this face right here. I mean, listen, you definitely know this face one way or another in the past 15 years.
Wow.
This guy right here. We got Mr. Mike Tank Faison. I don't know why you call you Tank.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Like,
You gave yourself that name, didn't you?
Nah.
Or is that part of one of those mythical football in that bad high school?
Well, first of all, Clinton High is one of the best football teams. You're two-time state champion. Come on now.
Oh, just two? Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Congratulations.
back.
Congratulations.
bro, we're not
Shout
here to
out
talk
98.
about the 90s.
All right, cool. It's cool.
Like, what the fuck we doing?
It's cool.
But
Get
Tank,
started.
we appreciate that you're here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. You know, it's been one of those things I've been trying to get on the show, and I'm finally here now.
Oh, yeah, you here. So you ready?
I'm ready.
We need your sweat rag because I know
Nah, I'm good, man. I'm
it's
good
gonna
right
get-
now.
It's going to get hot in a minute now.
So
I'm
we're
ready,
going to
I'm
start
ready.
you off the same way we start off everybody is, what does it mean to you to be a father?
Well, I guess it just means that, now you have someone else that you have to look after. It's one of those things where it's no longer about just yourself. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Boy, that's what you practice, huh?
Nah, I ain't
Yeah, you
ready.
definitely. Look,
yo.
hey, look, he rehearsed. He
Hey.
got some pointers before he
Hey,
sat
that
down.
boy, this boy good nervous.
Yeah.
I ain't never heard Tate say that little words in
Hey,
my
word.
life. Yeah, that's what we
Yeah, son. Yeah, nah, I got you. So dig into that a little bit. When you're talking about it's more than just you. So what helps you get to that point where you realize, you know what, I have others who really depend on me, but what does the depending on you really mean?
Well, it's one of those things where you have, like your kids, and it's one of those things where you go into. Hold on, y'all. Let's start. My bad, man.
heart started racing. Hey, I saw him looking about to have a heart attack. He said, So what we're going to do, we're going to start you off the same way we start off everybody by asking you, what does it mean to be a father?
Nah, okay.
You have to answer the question. Hey, trust me.
Oh, you saying answer now? Oh, my bad. I mean, I know you talking about now. Come on, man.
Oh God!
Oh, man.
Hey, keep it.
We're about to start it. Again.
For sure, you gotta keep it.
All right.
You ready again? Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. All right.
All right. So we're going to start you off the same way we start off everybody by asking you, what does it mean to be a father to you?
To be a father is basically, that's why we're messing up right there, basically. But anyway, being a father is knowing that you brought a life into this world that you got to take care of. Okay. I feel like as a father, it's my obligation to take care of my kids. As far as teaching them things, the parents are the first lines of teaching the kids. Without that foundation, it's kind of hard to start out the kids in the right way.
Right.
So That's basically what it is. Knowing that you have someone that's dependent on you. It's someone that's dependent on you, and at this point, you are here for that person.
I got you.
How many kids do you have?
Two.
So when you talk about the obligation and stuff like that, but what do you feel like is your job to teach them though?
Teach them how to be a good, upstanding citizen, just a good person in general. That's a lot of things that I think we're missing today as human beings, just being good humans. So I'm going to teach them about life, teach them things that they're going to need in life, and what to look out for.
Right.
Growing up and throughout.
Got you.
So you're talking about growing up, but they're growing up different from how you grew up, right?
Yes.
Where'd you grow up?
Clinton, North Carolina.
Clinton, North Carolina.
So where's that?
Yeah, like, bro,
In the
like, you
It's
got
like-
people
it's
know,
easy-
like,
Does anybody know what Clinton is?
I'm pretty sure.
I
they do.
say I grew up in Washington D.C. Okay, you got a pretty good idea.
All right,
Nobody
Clinton.
know damn Clinton, North Carolina.
All right. Clinton
Hey,
is.
look, he been disrespectful.
It's cool, man.
Oh,
It's
oh,
cool.
come
He-
on.
he-
Don't
you
pay
know
no
what I'm saying?
attention.
It's cool.
Yeah,
I ain't
that's one of
explaining
them
that.
city boys. You don't
Oh,
do that.
Jesus.
Clinton is east of Fayetteville. It's about 45 minutes straight shot, 24. So
Got you.
Yeah.
So when you compare growing up in the boonies versus
not the boonies, but
it's close enough to the boonies, but then comparing that to how you're raising your kids more so in what we would call small city.
Yeah.
Fayetteville, small city, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
For North Carolina, what's the big differences for North Carolina?
I guess growing up in a small city is kind of like
Small town, but I got you.
It's city of Clinton. Thank you very much. All right. But anyway, growing up in a small city, it's small. Everybody know each other, and you got kind of the old school ways. And the old school ways work. They do work, but as you get older and you get out, you learn and you see different things, and you learn how to parent in a more effective way, I would say.
Okay. Got you. So when you talk about the old school methods and then comparing that to you growing up and trying to be more effective, what was the manual that you followed? Who taught you? Who instilled the values of fatherhood inside of you?
Well, I would say my mom and my dad. My dad was military. He's very strict. If you know my dad, you know Big Mike. You know that he was a strict guy. He didn't play no games. So I did learn that. I learned those traits from my dad. But on the other side of that, my dad was, he was it was no gray area. It was black or white, no gray area.
Oh, wow.
And with that being said, you learn different things just from that aspect of things. So, my dad taught me a lot, and my mom, she taught me a lot too, growing up. She was always there for me. I could go to my mama when I couldn't go to my dad about things. And, I guess that's just a mama's thing. They look out for the kids different than
Right.
the dads do. So,
Got you.
So do you feel as though you look out for your kids the same way your dad did, or what is your style more like? More like your mom, more like your dad, or what would you say?
I'm gonna say my style is now it's a bit more of both. I would say that before my style was a little bit more aggressive, but one of the things that I always said that when I had kids, I wanted to do my kids differently.
Okay.
I wanted a boy and a girl. I got a boy and a girl. A lot of dads, they say, I'm gonna get my shotgun for my daughter. I never had that mentality. My mentality was give my daughter the game. If I give her the game, then I ain't gotta worry about a shotgun. You see what I'm
Okay.
saying? I want my daughter to be able to come to me and be like, Dad, this is going on, so, what's up? So I want that relationship. So, but you gotta have a balance with that though. You can't necessarily be the friend and the parent. I feel like there's got to be a balance in that.
Yep, for sure.
So I guess with that being said, my thing is more or less hearing the kids out, because a lot of times kids don't have a voice. And even growing up, my parents were good, but there were times where I felt differently, but I felt like I couldn't voice those things. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. Because it's almost like you was raised more so like, you don't really just challenge authority. You just basically listen and follow direction.
That's right.
Got you.
That's right.
So did that take for you to get to that point? Because you said you started out as aggressive.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like, that's kind of been my personality just growing up through life. I'm in a different place.
The kids made him soft.
Yeah. Nah, like he was aggressive. Like, yeah.
It's a little different. Like I said, with my daughter when she was born, we put the gates up for her, and little kitty gates.
Yeah.
And Jay, she sit down, she listen. Go sit down. My son Trey, we put the kitty gates over him. He just tear them down. He tore them down. He climbed over them. So it was just different parenting style with both kids growing up.
So when you look back at it though, where was the switch that helped, let's say, calm you down as far as the aggression and become more? Because it sounds like you're parenting now from a sense of maturity or a place of maturity that you had to get to.
Yeah.
What was that transition?
I would say my spiritual growth with God.
Okay.
Just understand, just a place of calmness will always be a better place to come from. With that being said, like I said, being able to listen to why my kids do what they do, understanding why they do what they do. If you understand the why, then you can correct it or you can give advice on it. But a lot of times I feel like we parent our kids because of what they do wrong, and we punish them or whatever for that, but we don't sit down and talk to them like why. Because a lot of times you got to think about it. Growing up, if grown folks talking, what?
You be quiet.
Shut up.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that we carry with us as a child. The things that our parents instilled in us, they carried to our adulthood.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So we parent based off what we learned from the things that our parents taught us. But then that same thing with if grown folks are talking, then you be quiet. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that kind of creates a blockage where I don't have open conversation.
So let me ask you this, just to challenge you a little bit. What's wrong with a child knowing their place when grown folks are talking and not talking to the child?
There's nothing wrong with a child.
Because children can tend to start butting in, but it's not a child's conversation.
Well,
that is a such thing, right?
I agree with that.
Okay.
But we take that across the board though. Meaning that, let's just say that if the child doesn't feel, they don't agree with what you're saying, that child may not have the confidence to say, well, hey mom, hey dad, I feel differently about that. And as parents, we look at that, you don't challenge adults. You see what I'm saying? So we as parents can't see it like, okay, let me hear what Elijah Wan got to say.
So you're saying it, I just love
that's
doing
cool.
this. So you're saying when you're talking to them, or like if me and you are talking and my child comes up and say, well, Mr. Faison or Daddy, I don't agree. Well, I wasn't really talking to you.
So that's a respect thing. You
Okay.
teach that child respect. When you see grown folks talking, you got to know how to interrupt.
Okay.
But that's not necessarily what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I guess for me, when it comes to the parenting, I want my child to be able to tell me anything, good, bad, or indifferent.
I'm with you.
But what happens is we instill that fear in our child.
Got you.
So now they're like, dang, little Johnny asked me to do some drugs, but I can't go tell my daddy. He might, you know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what I didn't want. I don't want that to happen.
Dope.
Now, just for a little more background on yourself, right? What do you do for a living?
I'm in the mental health field. I've been doing mental health for 15 plus years.
So how do you think that impacts your parenting?
Well, it impacts it a lot because in the mental health field, where I did care coordination, intensive in-home, where you go in and you teach different styles and stuff like that, you see a lot of different things. I've seen situations where I'm in a meeting, me, the child, and the mom, and I'm talking to the child trying to, get some things.
Right.
And the mom say, well, I just don't care. I don't care about them no more.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sitting there like, I'm trying to bring the family together, and the mom was like, I just don't care no more.
Wow.
And this is their blood,
Wow.
So seeing things like that, and I know how the kids feel because being the outsider in, they talk to me because I don't have a preconceived notion of them.
Yeah. Right.
And listening to them, you hear like, man, that's interesting. Like, I see how that could help, how that could be helped by if the parent did something different.
Yeah.
But then again, it goes back to a lot of times the parents are right, the kids are wrong. So.
Got you. So how do you prevent taking everything that you're exposed to over the years home?
It's getting that mindset of work is work, and when I leave, I have to leave that at home. I have to leave that at work.
Okay.
That's kind of hard to do depending on the type of person that you are. Some people, can deal with people and see things and not take it with them. Some people, it's harder for them to do that. But in the mental health field, you have to be able to disconnect from work.
Right.
You have to, because we have lives too, you know?
Got you.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you've actually been in that field for a long, before it became, I hate to say it's trendy now, but like, I don't want to say it's trendy because it's a good thing. Trendy makes it sound bad, but it's become more prevalent.
Widespread,
in our community.
Well, I think a lot of that is because we are being exposed to more things out in the world. You know, we got social media, we got different avenues to expose us to stuff. And then with kids being exposed to all this stuff in the world, and then a lot of parents not even up on what these kids are watching. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of other factors that, you know, pertain to that, to, you know, make that stuff muddy.
Got you.
You know.
So with that career path, do you ever find yourself as serving as more like a mentor
Most
to some of
definitely.
the keys?
Most
to the
definitely.
kids? Okay, so now with that, how do you stay connected to the children that you're helping mentor, and like what is your goal when you're trying to do that?
Well, a lot of times when you mentoring kids, sad to say, but they don't have the fathers in the home.
Okay.
So a lot of times when the kids see a strong black man, they automatically gravitate to him. So with that being said, that person has to be a caring person. A lot of times when you work in the field, you kind of make it more personal because dealing with people, you have to be personal. And so just understanding that, you know, the kids have different things going on, being able to listen to them and being able to give them advice from a adult perspective that could help them with their situation.
Got you.
I do have a question off of that. What is the biggest difference you see in the kids that have the father in the home and the ones that don't over the years?
Well, a lot of times, I guess the biggest difference that I could say is that sometimes from the male perspective, they may take on more of the tendencies of the woman. If it's just a woman in the home, women, they kind of take on those tendencies. Not necessarily in any way, but like different tendencies that women do. And with that being said, they don't really notice it. And a lot of times as a man, I would come through and talk to them, and they would see how I move, and they can kind of see the difference. And I would get a lot of questions and a lot of things that especially young boys have during that time frame that their dad should be there to answer. I had to answer those questions.
Oh wow.
Like just for a general, because actually we have a lot of women that watch this show, right? And so with the man being gone, you get those type of questions. And those type of questions, the moms never even get to hear because they're the mom, right?
Yeah.
So what are those type of questions that you hear from young men that they really want answers to, but you know, they can't ask mom, mom's not there?
A lot of it is just how to be a man. They don't necessarily come out and say, hey, I need to know how to be a man. But in their questioning, in their things that they say, you can see that is an issue, and that's something that they want help with. Just going back to what you said about the mothers and the daughters, because I've been in situations with the daughters as well. And it's hard when you are working and they kind of look at you as a father figure.
Wow.
Because like, it's hard to like disconnect from that. You know, I've had kids that would call me when they're going through certain things. They wouldn't even call it their biological parent. They would call me. So I've had kids that I've worked with when they were 6 and 7, and they have kids of their own now, and they've contacted me and tell me, you know, Mr. Mike, you know, you've helped me out a lot. You know, just different things of that nature, and that makes me feel good because it makes me feel like I've at least helped that person. You know.
So you've seen so much, and I can only imagine some of the sad situations and sad circumstances that some of these kids are experiencing or exposed to. Now, when you're realizing those, what from those situations do you take home to make sure that you don't do, you change, or you implement in your home that's different than what you see to make sure your children know where they stand?
I would say communication.
Okay.
But there's a flip side of communication. My son, Trey, love him to death, he's special needs. And with that being said, he's verbal a little bit, but he's getting better at being verbal. And with that being said, he communicates out totally different. And I can remember when, we first found out that we were having a son, I was happy. And, then getting that information that he had Down syndrome. And I can remember the first time, I was in my office and the guys were out in the office, whatever. And when I got the call and it was like, yeah, he has it, I actually cried in the office by myself. I cried for about 5 minutes because at that time, you don't know what to expect. Yeah. From that perspective, you only have seen other people deal with special needs. Oh, I've only seen it from a work perspective, dealing with special needs, not my own perspective. So with that, it's scary. You don't know what to expect. And I look back on it now and I can laugh about it because, man, my son, he good. He get up, he watches Mickey Mouse, he wants something, he go downstairs, he get what he want. He's living a good life. And so that's just one of the things that I realized at that time is communication is very important because not all kids communicate the same. Even kids like with ADHD or whatever, the parents say that, they're out of control, the teachers, they're out of control. What about you changing your communication style with that kid? Oh, wow. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So it's almost like adopt the style based on who you're dealing with.
Yes, most definitely.
Now, is that a seamless thing or is it something that takes practice and work?
I still practice doing that.
Okay.
And I say that from a perspective of being in the field for a long time. I still practice doing that. And it's one of those things that you got to recognize first within yourself that you may not be doing, and then actively work on it. In situations, work on it.
So what's just to kind of teach, because what you're doing now is basically teaching something that, neither one of us can actually teach.
Okay.
How do you pursue adjusting communication styles or learning what you need to do? Is there somewhere that you can go or recommend people do or any advice you can kind of give them to kind of help with that?
Well, a lot of it boils down to ego. I feel like a lot of times we don't communicate as well as we can and we don't get the help because of ego. We don't want anybody to tell us, we don't like people telling us things that we don't want to hear. Everybody can take things that they want to hear. But it's the things that you don't want to hear, and that's where you build at. That's where you get better at.
Wow, okay.
So going back to your son, right? So your son is special needs, but your daughter is not.
Yes.
Right. Oh,
Wobbly
table
baby.
wobbly. Yeah.
Screw it down.
Yeah.
It's my son's birthday today, too. Shout out to
Happy birthday.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Well, we really definitely appreciate you being here today. Yeah. Yeah. So he requires a little more attention than your daughter, right? Yeah. How do you manage that? Whereas you have to give him the extra attention, but you don't want your daughter to feel as though, hey, I'm forgetting about you. And how does she take that?
Well, number one, my daughter is a great daughter. My daughter has done a lot. She's helped a lot. She continues to help a lot. It's one of those things where she kind of grew up fast, not in a bad way, but she's very aware. She's very aware. So with that being said, she sees things and she seamlessly helps. Like, it's not one of those things that we have to really be like, Jay, do this, do that, whatever. But she's very good at that. So it's not a thing, and I do try to realize, like, okay, like I may be paying a little bit too more attention, but that's really not an issue as far as giving too much attention to Treya versus my daughter, because it just flows. Now, it's not easy, but for the most part, it just flows.
Got you. So from the whole experience and just trying to keep the family unit strong, what are some of the communication aspects that you all implement, or different things that you all implement to kind of keep it glued tight?
Yeah. I guess one of the biggest things is if you have an issue, put it on the table. You don't like to stir and stew over things. If you feel a certain way, it's best to go ahead and get it out, talk about it to make it better instead of letting it stew and fester over time. That's one of the biggest things that, I try to tell my daughter. If she has an issue with something, say it. And that's, so I would say that.
Got you. Now, being that you always call yourself a little tough tank, but how was the how, yeah, you know,
Tonka truck.
Tonka truck, yeah. So,
Fucking tank.
so
Fuck out of here.
hey, look,
Yeah, you gotta loosen up, too. Look. Hey,
look,
we are not interviewing you, Tank. We
I
are
know,
talking
man.
to you.
I got it,
Relax,
man.
bro. Hey, he's like, yep.
his
that's the
neck
end of the
done
question.
stiffened up.
Yeah.
Hey, like, I did a good job on that answer.
Whatever, man. Come on, man.
That's it.
But nah, think about this. So, your daughter is the oldest.
Yes.
When she was born, being a little girl, how did she change you?
Well, I would say that she didn't necessarily calm me down. I wasn't really wilding, but
Okay. Oh God. Okay.
I heard other people say the kid calmed her down, but it was kind of.
Okay.
We ain't gonna get on here lying, man.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, well, actually, it did because.
Oh,
I ain't want to tell the truth.
All right, let me explain what I mean by that.
Okay.
When I say calm me down, being partying and going when you want to go and doing what you want to do, I had to tone it down because now I got a responsibility.
Well, that's kind of like calming you down.
Yeah, that's kind of what we said.
It's kind of like the definition.
All right, man, I got you.
He tried to act like he had it always together all the time.
Nah, but I mean, you're right with that. You know what I'm saying? Whatever, man. But anyway, as far as that, it calmed me down, and like I said, it was a lifetime responsibility.
Yeah.
Like I don't see how some people cannot be in their kid's life. For me, like that, I can't. That is a part of me. That's a part of me. So, like I said, it was a major responsibility. So.
Gotcha.
And again, it's still not. It ain't easy, I took my daughter to the movies with her friends the other day, and they keyed and laughed. And I'm like, man, come on, man, But that's what kids do, So, yeah.
So from a little girl, I know you was talking about trying to teach her the game, and what are some other things from you being her father that you want to instill in her going forward, other than just teaching her the game?
Okay. Well, the flip side of that is love from a man and how that should look. I feel like your daughter's first love should be her dad. My daughter's growing up, I had a little old recliner. She used to get in the recliner with me, we, drink tea and.
Oh, I didn't know where the drink was going.
Oh, come on, man. I didn't like that, man.
He said it was a drink.
Come on,
tea.
man. Yeah. But just that father-daughter bond that we have, and it's as you get older and she gets older, that changes, and you have to adjust and adapt.
So, boy, you hit that right. How old is your daughter?
12.
Now, you seeing that switch? How does that switch make you feel as her father? Or were you ready for it? Did it happen immediately, or did you see it coming?
Well, what switch you talking about first? 'Cause I don't know what switch you talking about.
Well, that like you said, growing up into the recliner, and you said it starts to change.
Yeah.
Were you prepared for that change?
Well, to be honest, I kind of was, because you remember I work in the field, so I actually see these changes throughout families that I work with. But again, each change is different for each person. And so it was just one of those things where I realized that my daughter wanted to be with her friends more. She wanted, and she's into gaming and stuff like that, and different sports and stuff. So she didn't want that type of relationship, and our relationship has changed a lot now. So but it's difficult because for me, you kind of want your little girl to stay a little girl forever.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Yeah.
You want her to stay a little girl forever, but then you kind of want her to, you want her to grow up and go out. But it's just that little piece that make you want to.
Like you feel like you're kind of losing that grasp just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
And that's, like I said, that's what I was getting at, because a lot of people would say, nah, it's all right. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Nah, it kind of tug at your heartstrings a little bit. That's
You're
what
right,
I wanted
it does.
to say, yeah.
And it's one of those things that kind of makes me want to have her more prepared going out into the world. So when I have to let her go to the world, that I can be confident that, I did what I did as a father to be there for her, prepare her.
So how do you go about preparing the world preparing your son for the world?
Well, that's a good question. Trey being,
We ain't got no
we
damn
ain't got
flies
no-
in
we
here.
ain't got not
We
one
ain't got
fly.
not one fly.
There's not one
Don't
fly.
be trying to make
It's-
our production look
look-
crazy.
it look-
You up there sweating.
There's not one fly,
Hey.
not one gnat, not even a speck of dust flying around
He's
in
trying
here.
to swipe his sweat and shit.
That's kind of disrespectful. But it's
Yeah.
all
My
right.
bad, man.
Well,
Look, I
it's
thought,
not
no
on
damn
that.
look, man, I
fly.
thought something, maybe it was a piece of string or
Nah,
something.
these
Yeah.
cameras are crisp.
Yeah.
We will see a damn
Hold
fly.
on. You be quiet.
These ones are.
Boy, y'all boy, wow, man. Y'all boy, wow.
That's funny. Well, they left was Chris with it. But anyway.
Now, what preparing my son, it's one of those things where his path in life is going to be different. It's not going to be the normal path in life.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that we try to do is give him love, keep him covered, and help him progress in his lane of progression. That's where a lot of people go wrong. They compare their kids or they compare other people. You can't do that. You can't do that. You got to keep your kids in their lane and then progress them along in their lane.
Right.
So that's kind of what we do with Trey.
And you said, at first, you was crying about it, right?
Yeah.
But now you say your son's all right.
Yeah.
What moment was it that you got to that point where you realized you're like, you know what? My son's going to be fine. He's going to be fine.
When I go in and I see him laying across his bed with his chips and his sandwich watching TV like he on vacation, that tell me he all right. and that's what he does. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, if anybody's fine, he's fine.
So, do you ever find yourself stressing about whether or not it's certain things that you haven't been able to teach him, or what do you need to teach next, and just can kind of continue helping him grow as much as you can as a father?
I don't necessarily stress about it.
Okay.
It is a concern though, based on how the world is today, and how the world is changing. It is a concern. So the only thing that we can do really though is live in the moment and do the best we can in the moment to prepare for the future. That's the only thing that I usually do.
Right.
One thing that I can say that I've seen you do that I don't know if you give yourself credit for, is your son is very confident. And so that's what I feel like prepares him for more than anything, because the world's not going to be nice at the end of the day. It's just not. We could beat around the bush and all of that, but to be real, it's not going to be nice.
Yeah.
But when you can go in places and you can keep your head up high and just be yourself and be confident in yourself, you'll be fine no matter whatever somebody else is saying about you. And that is one thing that I've seen that you built up, and that's very important.
Gotcha.
And I appreciate that. It's one of those things that I don't really look at that as something that I did. I feel like that's his spirit. That's his spirit overall. And what you see is what he projects. So I appreciate that though.
So now, how much, like how they always have people that help out and just teach, what type of things do they teach you to kind of help, with making sure that he's growing up in the way that helps him grow?
Well, he has, different, he goes to different types of therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy and stuff like that. So just, talking to the different therapists and getting information. And again, just a lot of times just doing research on your own, Googling, research on your own about different things that, your kid may be doing. And just reaching out to other people who may be experiencing it. So, yeah.
Gotcha. So when you think about like the path that you've been on from your career to raising both of your kids, what's one of the biggest things that you feel like, I need to keep improving on this, so that way down the line I can look back and say, I was a work in progress, but I can count off and check off the things that I improved on. What are some of those things that you still have to work on?
Constantly working on communication, just being in a stable place within myself. We all need to find that place that we can go to within ourselves to, think and think and just be with yourself. So I would say communication and just knowing that what I put in to my kids, they're gonna put out, and that be positive.
Got you.
So I have a question for you. If, let's say there's a new father that just got the same call you got.
I thought you said my
What
kids have a
advice?
new father. Like, come on, bro. I'm saying, y'all might be trying to throw a curveball in the
nigga,
game.
not
got
more.
you out of here.
Man, look, nah, man. Look, y'all trying to throw a curveball in the game.
All right, it's not Maury, buddy. We good.
Go ahead.
So they just got that call. What advice would you give to a new father
Like, as in,
that their
What
child
call?
is going to have special needs?
okay. I would tell them first, don't worry about anything at this point. Because how do you know that it's not going to be the best experience of your life?
Oh,
That's what I would tell them.
Wow.
Because looking back on it now, I can remember that day as clear as day. And I only cried for like a few minutes, and then I went back in the hallway and talked to the guys. But now looking back on it, I would have never cried, because all the things that went through my head that could possibly go wrong didn't. And all the things that you worry about from lack of knowledge of didn't happen. So, and don't get me wrong, you know, Trey, he's had his ups and downs, but like you said, he's confident, he's strong, so I don't worry about him. So I would tell that father or that mother, like, don't worry about it. Don't look at what people say. Work together as a unit. Everybody work together to build that child and stay in that child's lane and build that child in his lane or her lane.
Wow.
That's what I would tell them.
So when you baby tank and they put baby tank on your tombstone, lay you down to rest, what do you want your legacy as a father to be?
Oh, I want my kids' kids to know me as well as my kids know me.
Oh, wow.
I want them to instill the things that I've instilled in them as if I instilled it in them, because I instilled it in my kids.
Wow. That joker prepared that answer, didn't
Nah, I didn't. For real, man. That came off the
Hey,
top.
you can tell because you got excited that he got it right.
I got-
Look,
that came
he
off the
got
top,
confident
baby.
in that one. He's like, yeah, I got a bar I'm about to drop. But
Nah, man.
we really appreciate you sitting down and cover some things that we haven't actually had the honor of discussing since we've done this. And so, like, the stuff that you shared is going to help a million people, man.
Yeah.
And taking the time to sit with us is greatly appreciated. But
Appreciate it,
Man, I
man.
appreciate that, man. I appreciate it.
Man, you can stop sweating, bro.
thanks for watching another episode of the Just My Baby Daddy podcast. For past episodes, go out to our YouTube channel at Just My Baby Daddy Podcast. Subscribe, like, share. Thank you.